My best, thank you. Okay, my name is Espen Schulze. I'm an R&D manager of CoBuilder. I also sit in the CEN TC442 work group 4. I'm going to talk more about that. I am a member of the Norwegian Mirror Committee for BIM activities worldwide, also a member of the Building Smart activities in the product room. I will start to talk about the new, quite newly established committee within CEN regards to BIM. The CEN TC442 was established last year in Brussels last September. These slides I got from Øyvind Roth, the chair of the committee. So he couldn't be here today, unfortunately. So I will go through his slides and try to explain the best I can. I will not go very much into detail, but the presentation will be available for you, and if you follow the links, you can go in and read the business plan and the scope, etc. Very quickly, the scope is standardization in the field of structural semantic life cycle information for the built environment, and is to create standard specifications and reports in regards to handling asset data semantics and processes. First meeting was last year in Brussels, and we also had a meeting this February in Oslo, and the next meeting is in Lisbon in June. So it's high activity now, both with the committee meetings where the decisions are made and within the working groups. So there will be lots of meetings. These are the meetings set up now for the next year or so around in Europe. So the work program has to be established, and the first items on the agenda was to make the building smart standards, which has become ISO standards, and make those into European standards to have a better or more impact on how you have to comply with these standards. So this is the industry foundation classes, ISO 16739, that's the IFC standard. The ISO 29481 part 2, that's the IDM standard, that's about processes. And the ISO 12006 part 3 standards, that's the IFD standard. That's the standard which is the basis for the Building Smart data dictionary. So the BSDD is the implementation of the IFD standard. So first thing this committee wants to do is to make those standards into European standards, which is good for open BIM and for the construction industry. The committee is set up with, under the committee is set up 4 working groups, where the working group 1, it's about strategy and planning, run by the British Standards Institute. Working group 2, about exchange information, that's run by Germany. The IFC matters are under this group. The working group 3, information delivery specification, that's run by Austria. That's the processes, that's the IDM works. And the working group 4 is about supporting data dictionaries. How shall product data, how shall the manufacturers be able to provide their product data into BIM? And that's run by AFNOR, the standards organization in France. And also there's a CAG, Chair Advisory Group, established to make sure that these groups communicate well together. So we have to work together. Already are some challenges in that, so we have to be sure that the scope is clear and that the groups communicate good. So some liaison organizations, always important. Want to point out here, it's the Building Smart International is a liaison here. The works within Building Smart and the works within ISO. I will come back to what's happening in ISO. And the work in CEN. It's a lot of parallel work, but they have to be joint work. So liaison organizations has to be here, and Building Smart is an important actor there. So this is a structure. It's run by the 442 committee is run by the secretary is Norwegian. Øyvind Roth is the chair, and Lisbeth Landfall from Standards Norway is the secretary. And these are the bullet points, the scopes for the different working groups. I will just go through it with you. It's to provide, work group 1 is to provide guidance to CEN TC 442 related to the development of the business plan and work program. It's to monitor worldwide and European current and planned activities regarding building information modeling. It's to provide strategic advice to CEN TC 442 on matters and issues related to CEN TC 442, and to focus on developing on European strategy for BIM standardization. And it's to active collaborate with the ISO TC 59 SC 13 on business planning and strategy. Workgroup 2, that's to develop electronic formats for information exchanges, such as the IFC. It's development of subsets of such electronic formats for specific information exchanges, such as MVD. It's a specification of data content to be exchanged using such specific information exchanges, such as data drops. And workgroup 3 is to develop an overall process definition for communication in the construction industry, process maps, IDM, etc. Identification of roles within such process definitions. Identification of input and output relation between such processes. One of the main challenges now is to have the workgroup 2 and the workgroup 3 to agree on the scope within each group. So it's a lot of parallel things in those groups. So workgroup 4, data dictionaries. There we want to establish a common data dictionary framework and application programming interfaces. We want to harmonize construction product properties. We want to harmonize European classification tables, and we want to create dictionaries and object libraries, and all to work together. So one very important thing there is to use the information in the product standards, the European product standards, the CENELEC standards. There's already established a structure there, a product information structure, which has to be reused. And we have to let the manufacturer use this structure to give their product data to BIM. That's important because the manufacturers are already using a lot of money on putting the products on the market. CE marking was talked about earlier today. And they have to do it one certain way, and that's important to let them connect or map that structure to BIM. So that's one of the main tasks of this group. And also, Fredrik was talking about the PPBIM standard. That's also an important part of the works within this group. And also what's happening in the UK. It's all in this group. So these are the work items, the approved new work items. It's the three building smart standards, as I talked about, and then new work item proposals to be further developed by the working groups. It's high-level information delivery manual, that's from France. Data dictionaries methods of definition from France, that's related to the PPBIM initiative. And two from Austria, implementing a phase model for building information modeling and implementing a European property server based on BSDD. This is the work program within each group. Just a summary of what I just said. Yeah, just for you to see what is going on, translated into more readable terms. IFC, IDM, IFD, and classification. That's a very short summary of the activities now, which is going to be prioritized first. So this is a presentation from Øyvind Roth and from Alexandre Beltrao from CEN. So I give my credits to them for making this. Just quickly, going to go through the activities in ISO. ISO TC 59, Subcommittee 13, that's where they work within the standardization within BIM on a global basis. This is as well is run by Norway. Chair Kjell Ivar Bakkmoen, and the secretary is Lisbeth Randfall. Just some print screens from the business plan for this group. The gateway to ISO BIM standards, IFD standard and IDM standards, object libraries, classification, management of communication, and further development of IDM and MVD. So you can see that it's the same topics. We work with those within Building Smart, within ISO and within CEN. So it's important to gather these initiatives. Again, bringing Building Smart as an extremely important liaison here. Many of the same people are attending the different working groups. This is the different working groups under SC 13. You have this is the working group working with the IDM standard. This is a joint working group with ISO TC 184. That's where they work with the IFC standard. And this is a working group. This group is working with a standard which is coming soon. That's about the process of handling building information on the workplace. So I'll quickly come back to that. Participating countries, 24 active members, and it's 10 observing countries. These are the developed ISO standards. These two are the standard which is the basis for classification system widely used. You have the Uniclass, which is part of the UK requirements. Omniclass, the US classification system, and also BSAB from Sweden. They all base their classification structure on this standard. The IFD standard, as I said, Building Smart Data Dictionary is a Building Smart's implementation of this standard, how to deal with the terms and make the relations between terms in the dictionary so that the communication between the actors in the construction industries is secured. We need to agree on what a term is. IDM, processes and information flow. Ongoing projects. There's a revision now of the IDM standard. And there's also a revision going on of the IFC standard. And also, as I quickly mentioned, in the UK, as Nick was talking about, you had this standards, the PAS 1192, which describes the BIM process, the information management process on site. And that standard has now been lifted up to ISO, and those standards are 19650 Part 1 and 2, based on the 1192 Part 2. And those standards will be both established as an ISO standard, but also as CEN standard at the same time. So they're working now to do that.
Espen, can I just comment?
Yes.
I've asked Øyvind Roth from DBK, why are not anyone in Norway attending to these standards now, which comes from the UK and are not now being pushed as ISO and CEN. So that will affect the contractors. It will affect anyone, the architects, anyone in the project. So I asked him, why is no one actually looking at this? And he said, I don't know. So that's the crazy part, is that governments are doing things. Just a second. Microphone. There's a question. We need to get, there are some people following us, so state your name, please.
My name is it on? 1, 2, 1, 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. A quick comment. I'm in that committee working with it 19650, and I think one of the reasons is that wrongly it's a perception that all the work that's been done with the NS 8360 and other work in Norway is in competition with what is done in UK. And that's a gross misunderstanding. So I think what you say is really important, because there is also a tremendous effort put into the European CEN work. But as you state, when the ISO, or if the ISO is accepted as a standard, it will actually go down and become a European standard too. So I think your point is really, really, really important.
Thank you for that support. So my only, this is when I'm landing at Gardermoen, this is my concern, saying what's happening, not only in Norway though, but that's where I live. So I got this concern. So that means that the industry has to jump around, not 180 degrees, not 360 degrees, but more. And how will your organization do that? So there's a standard coming out, and I think people should attend their ears in that direction, saying what's going on. So Espen, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.